Hello, 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 and welcome to Geometry 9's first video. Aren't you excited? One thing about geometry that you'll see is that there's a lot of definitions. The nice thing that we have with these definitions is that you don't really have to write them down because they're already in your notes. So first, when you talk about a point has no size. So even if I do this compared to this, it doesn't mean that the point is larger. The point is represented by a capital letter. So this would be point A, this would be point F. That's my initials. A line goes on forever. A line goes on forever in two opposite directions. So if I were to draw a line, you have to make sure to have arrows at the end. And in a line, you can have two or many other points. We're going to go B, C. A plane is like this piece of paper. A plane has to have 3 points in order to show that it is a plane. It has no thickness, just like how we have the points. It has no thickness and it goes on forever. So lines or points that are on the same line are collinear. Co means same. Points and lines that are in the same plane are coplanar. So first, when I'm looking at this picture right here, I have to be able to see what I'm looking at. First, right here, this dotted line means it's going through it. So like if I had this paper and this pen was going through this, I made a hole. That's the same thing represented by this. All these points are points. This, because there's no dot next to it, this represents when it's a cursive capital letter, that represents a plane. When I have a cursive small letter, then that represents a line. So what are two other ways to name this is line AB? So if I look at AB, the two other points that we have here is an F. So I could say FB and I could say FA. One thing, if I just have these two letters, that's all they are, two letters. In order to actually name a line, you have to put the little representation on top. Notice how it's little. These two letters are close to each other, and we have arrows at the end. So that's how you would name a line. There are two other ways that you can name plane Q. So when you're looking at a plane and you're naming a plane, so all these points are on the plane. This point is not, and this point is not. You have to pick 3 points that are not on the same line. So I can say plane. You have to, in this case, we don't have a special picture of it. You can say plane. I can say ADC. I could say plane EAC. I could not say plane EAD because those are all in the same line. That doesn't count. They have to be 3 points that are not collinear. Name 3 collinear points. So 3 points that are on the same line. So I could say EAD are collinear. I could also say FAB are collinear because these 3 points are on the same line. These are also on the same line. Name 4 coplanar points. So the only option that we have here, the only option is C, E, A, D. Those are the only 4 points that are on the same plane. Again, Q is not a point. Q is not a point. When we have segments, a segment is when we have endpoints. So it does not go on forever. So this could be C, D. If I were to label a segment here, notice how I do not put arrows at the end. Now you can have a segment within every line. If I go back up to this is the line because there's arrows, BC. I could also say segment BC, meaning I'm starting at B and I'm walking to C. That's a segment when you have a start and end point. A ray, think about the sun ray. That's the easiest way to think of it. If I have P, a point P, and a point K, if only one goes on forever, that's ray PK with endpoint P. Now this is very important. So if I write PK and I do my little symbol above it, the arrow has to be in the K position. If I wrote KP, I would have to write it in this direction because my endpoint is P. Notice my endpoint is P, so it has to represent that in my picture of my representation of how I name it. Opposite rays. Opposite rays are when you have the same endpoint and the rays go into opposite directions and they form a line. So what are the names of the segments in the picture? I want you to answer these 3 questions by yourself. Try pausing the video and answer these 3 questions by yourself and then check them with my answer. So one thing when you're talking about segments are from here to here. So we have MN, we have MP, we have NP. Now I could write them the opposite, but they're going to be the exact same because it's still the distance in between those 2 points. Now with rays, it's a little bit different. I have a lot more options because I have ray, because my starting point here is M to N. That means it's going on forever through this point. That's going to be different than this one. These two are different because here I start with N and I go on forever through that point. So they're opposite. So these would be my rays. These are going to be opposite rays. So here I'm starting with M, or N to M goes on forever. Here I'm starting N to P going on forever. Postulate. Postulate is basically another word in geometry that we say it is a fact. So when you have two or more geometric figures, their intersection is the set of points that figures have in common. So these are all postulates, meaning there's no way that you could prove this wrong. When you have 2 points, there's only one way that you can draw the line. With 2 points, there's only one way you can draw that line. If you have two distinct lines intersect, they intersect at one point. So if I draw 2 lines, there's only going to be one spot where they line. A line has to be a straight line. It can't be curved. So again, these are facts. We will get into more postulates. We'll discuss it more in class. So I know it might seem like, oh my gosh, this video is going so fast. But again, we will be discussing a lot of this in class as well. Right now, I want you to try to pause the video and try to do these 4 questions. So 2 up here and 2 by here by yourself right now. So one thing, it says plane ADC. So this plane right here. And the second one is plane BFG, so right here. So where they overlap is the intersection. And because this does not go on forever, where they intersect, where they overlap is BC. And I have to label that with the segment above. Here, this is saying a line BF. So this is saying, okay, this is going to go on forever, even though it's not showing. So in the purple. So it's asking what 2 planes. So if I look at that plane, sometimes it helps students if you write down all 4 letters. You can do that if you want. So we have plane right here, BFEA. You can also just use 3 of the letters. And we also have plane, now look at this, BFGC. So those are the 2 planes that intersect at line BF. Which plane contains points K, J, and L? Now this is kind of an easier question because as long as you have 3 points, you have the plane. So we can say plane JKL. Which plane contains LQP? So again, plane, if I look at this, that's LQP. If I want to name all 4 points, I definitely could, or else you can just use the ones that are shown. And bing, bada, boom. That's all I got for you today. Make sure that you go back and kind of look through these. One thing that you should do about, especially in geometry, is look over your vocab words every night. It could be as simple as just going through and reading what the definition is. And there you have it. Have a great, grand, wonderful day.